Hello and welcome to the Road to Rec League podcast. I'm Callum, and in today's episode we're going to reflect on 2025 and look ahead to the new year. That's right, first episode of a new year, and I thought it'd be nice to sort of reflect a little bit on 2025 because obviously my journey into ice hockey started, not playing anyway, in 2025. I had some really cool trips. And I'm really proud of the progress I've made, but also, you know, we're teeing ourselves up for the new year. It's a time for resolutions. Now, I'm not really one for doing those, but I will put some targets in place. There's things I want to achieve, and it's okay if I don't achieve them, but equally it's good to have things to work towards and aim for. And then later in the episode, I'll touch on the last few sessions because they've been pretty good. I've enjoyed them, and we've got plenty more to follow. So, let's start looking backwards and then we'll look forwards. So, reflecting on 2025, in December of 24 / January of 25, I decided that I wanted to learn how to ice skate and play ice hockey. And usually when I get my mind set to something, I'm pretty focused on it until I achieve it. To varying degrees, and then I'll peter off in my interest or I'll double down. And so January rolls around and I pick up a pair of inline sort of roller skates because I live an hour away from an ice rink. I didn't have any ice equipment. I literally just picked up some inlines for like 40 quid and started trying to learn how to do that because the motions are similar. And I think if I could look, when I went out on my inlines a few weeks ago, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't really want to do that again in a hurry because I love skating on ice. It is different. There are subtle differences, but when you're first starting out and you just need to understand that open your legs to go forward, close your legs to go backwards and stop, like that's a pretty basic principle that you can pick up. And it was really good for just giving me the confidence to like take the next step and go ice skating, which I did for the first time in January. So I've been on an ice rink before, but I've never skated before. I've just held onto the side and sort of shuffled. Whereas in January, I didn't hold onto the side at all. I was really committed to just being like, actually, I'm going to skate. And the inline skating for say like 10 hours beforehand really set me up for that. So I used the old strap-on blue boots, had an hour, fell in love with it, and then went out and bought some ice skates. Now, I didn't buy them at the rink. I bought them secondhand off eBay, and I tried to heat mold them to my feet. The problem was they were effectively a fit 1, and my feet are somewhere between a 2 and a 3. So I picked up these secondhand. They were Mission ice skates from like the late 2000s. I think it was 2009 or something. And so I got them. I heat molded them myself in an oven at home, fitted them, and no matter how much adjustment I made, no matter how much I made them fit my feet, I basically couldn't be on the ice for more than 20 to 30 minutes without getting cramp in my feet. They were just totally the wrong fit, and it was sort of meaning that I was going out like once every other week, getting on the ice for half an hour, being frustrated that I wasn't able to progress, and I was able to move forwards and look a bit uncomfortable, but I wasn't really able to trust where my feet were, and obviously I had no idea about different grinds or hollows and different sort of and learning the techniques. It was just me, myself, and I, floating around for 20 minutes on some skates that didn't really fit. And then over the course of the 6 months leading, I guess the remaining 6 months of, the next 6 months of the year, so like February through to August, I started accruing other equipment. So I picked up a wooden stick and a green biscuits that I could at least get out on my inlines once a week and work on puck handling and like going around cones and stuff. And then I'd pick up like the hockey shorts and the shoulder pads and the elbow pads, all secondhand, just one thing at a time. Like 1 month I'd pick up something new, or not new, but used. And slowly I accrued what was going to be, I guess, my first equipment setup for the year. And in August, I took the plunge and signed up for adult learn to play ice hockey sessions because in I think the July I got new skates that were fitted to my feet way better. I still think there's room for improvement in my fit, but oh my goodness, I can skate for 2 hours and get no pain at all, or get a little bit of pain in one of my toes, but I can deal with that. Yeah, so in August took the plunge, went to an adult learn to play session, which is really set up for total beginners, and since then I've been going, once or twice or 3 times a week, every week. So that's sort of been that. I guess if I was to look at the kind of whole year, August was a really big changing point in my journey, because that's when I really committed to wearing the full gear, going out skating regularly, and that's where I say the addiction, like the bug, really caught me, because there's something about getting into that. I think I've talked about it before, that competitive sporting environment or whatever. Even if it's not a high level of competition, you're competing against the people around you. And I now crave that. I crave the physical activity and the competition, which is really exciting, because that's how I used to be. And I haven't been that way in a long time. So it was really nice on a personal perspective to sort of rediscover that part of myself through hockey. But yeah, so and then did that for a few months, I guess, throughout August. And then at some point, I decided I was going to try and tag along to a team practice. Now, off the top of my head, I think that only would have been a couple of months back, but I actually have a handy-dandy spreadsheet that tells me when I started doing different sessions. Yeah, so my adult learn to play started in August. I went to my first scrimmage basically the end of October, and my first team practice at the start of November. And that was with not the team I'm registered with, that was just with a different team, trying to get a feel for it all. And the first session I had with the team I'm registered with was halfway through November. So really, if it comes to like actual team practices and stuff, I've been doing this a month and a half. Obviously, the adult learn to plays were really foundational, really helpful, and I put a bunch of public skate effort in as well. I think in terms of actual effort levels, in that first, so I was been tracking my hours as well. So in August, I did 7.5 hours. In September, I did 7 hours. In October, I managed to get 8 hours in. And then over the last 2 months, in November, I did 12 3/4 and 14 3/4 in December. So like I've been ramping up in sort of commitment. I've been ramping up in enjoyment, because I'm getting more out of the sessions. I'm able to throw myself into it more. I'm being more involved. I'm feeling more confident. I've played with a few different teams now, or trained with a few different teams, which is really cool. I've done a few different types of lessons. I've done obviously the learn to play as an adult session. I've done the hockey skating sort of lesson with extreme edges. That was awesome. So it's slowly been ramping up over the course of the year, which is really cool. And when I look back to, I guess, my goal at the start of the year, so in 2025, my aim was to be involved in a scrimmage of some kind. Not really understanding how practices are usually run in the UK, where it's 15 minutes of drills and 40 minutes of scrimming. But I guess that was my goal. I wanted to be involved in a scrimmage. And I properly achieved that at the end of October. And that was really what set me on the path for registering with the team I registered with, because there were so many of those people there and they were so lovely. It was just totally the right environment for me to learn, totally the right environment for me to, commit to and enjoy being around. And the level has pushed me to another level in myself, which is great. So I really do think surrounding yourself with people who are better than you is the best way to learn. And I have seen huge steps that I probably wouldn't have had to have taken in terms of pace and like getting involved, and maybe even like the being a bit physical. I'd never have been introduced to that in like the learn to play sessions in quite the same way, because it's one thing you being 50%, like being the middle in terms of speed or whatever, but when you are the slowest person on the ice, it's a very different feeling, and I think it's really good for exposing those things and developing those skills. So I guess, like I say, slowly ramped up over the course of the year, and achieved the goal I wanted to. Now, I've written a couple of reflections here. So just obviously painted the picture, set the scene. A few things I'm pretty proud of. I'm really proud of just taking the leap, actually. It's a new sport. I turned 30 in December, so, it's not like I'm picking it up at 14 or something. My mind is a sponge like it was, and I'm in a position where I'm going to physically grow into the game and all that sort of stuff. Like, starting something new as an adult can be daunting. I'm quite fortunate. I did it a few years ago with skateboarding, where I started from scratch. I'd never skateboarded. I was 26, 27, and I never got that good, but I learned how to do some flat ground tricks and stuff like that, and was okay falling over and okay looking like a bit of an arse. And I think that's an important thing to get past. And at some point, I think a switch flips in most people's heads where they just stop giving a shit about what people think about them broadly. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still self-conscious when I'm out on the ice, but not to the level that it's going to stop me doing it. So I'm really proud of taking the leap. I'm particularly proud of finding ways to influence the game. So I, despite not being a particularly good skater, not having a great shot, I've always tried to find ways to impact on a game, to make a difference, and not just in a negative light, but to be able to put myself in goal scoring positions. And I've talked about this maybe every episode of the year so far, breaking up passes, sticks in lanes, bodies in lanes, stuff like that. Like, I've always tried to pride myself on that. And I think if I was going to reflect on that, I'm really pleased that I have, I guess, focused on that and allowed those victories, in a sense, to exist. And I've rewarded myself for that kind of behaviour. I think that's really important. I scored on a proper goalie. I've now done it a couple of times, which is cool. A couple of times in practice and drills. But in a game, a proper goalie, junior development goalie as well, not a shit one. Hugely pleased with that. Particularly as there was a while where I thought it might not happen. I also think that the foundation I've picked up in watching so many games of hockey, like NHL and in person now, has really helped my development of how I think the game. And so I'm really pleased with, I guess, positioning, understanding things. If someone mentions something to me in the lingo, I can pretty quickly pick it up. I talked about being a defenseman for 15 minutes of a scrim, and the fact it was keep them to the outside, and you just don't let them get into the soft ice, and then do this on offense. And I was able to just pick it up because I think my mind can do more than my legs can. Really, my skating is 100% my weakness, and I'm really pleased that I can identify that, but that I have other strengths that maybe I can lean on that help me be less shit in reality. Because honestly, if you put my skating next to some of these people, it is laughable sometimes. And you just think, oh, there's such a chasm here in capability. And I'm not saying I'm anywhere near as good as other people, but that chasm is smaller, I think, because of the effort I put in, and because I'm not dumb to the game. I'm not blind to positioning and understanding where you need to be and who might need to do what and when a pass is a good option and stuff like that. So, yeah, really pleased with that. If I was going to reflect on one thing, I think I haven't put enough effort into learning proper skating technique this year. I would like to start taking lessons this year, also last year, in 2026. I'm really keen on actually developing a technique, I suppose. I think in order for me to take another step in my skating ability, I'm going to need to start thinking about how you transition from skating forwards to skating backwards the way you came, things like that. I'm not particularly fluid at. Getting crossovers in a game situation, getting crossovers really nailed down outside of a game situation, things like that. So I did need to, I think I needed to put more work into my skating technique than I did do, if I was going to reflect on something that was maybe an area for improvement. I've learnt about my equipment this year. And, tradesmen and tools comes to mind. You can't necessarily blame bad tools. However, if you do want to set yourself up for success, everything matters, And I've talked about it in the past about that, the 1% difference. Well, yes, it's only 1%. But if you shrug off every opportunity at a 1% advantage, you're going to be down 10, 15%. So you should be taking all of those advantages because, I need them. So just little things like learning about the difference between, getting my new stick and kind of understanding how that works, right? Something really simple, but I had a wooden stick handling with a green biscuit, and you just don't know the difference until you recalibrate with a composite stick and a proper puck and stuff like that. So obviously I've gone through that process. I've changed the hollow on my skates, and it was probably one of the best things I've done, and I wish I'd done it sooner. I get them sharpened more often now as well, and I think I've just accepted that. I was like, okay, my technique isn't that good. I'm going to dull my edges a lot quicker because I'm not I'm not skating in a way that I guess is particularly technical. I'm really ham and egging it out there, but with a 5/8 hollow, I can stop so much better. I've got so much more control. In terms of speed and turning and comfort on the ice, it just feels so much more natural. And making that adjustment from a 1/2 inch to a 5/8 was genuinely probably not even 1%. We're probably talking like 5-10% in terms of skating comfort and level, maybe more actually when it comes to stopping. For the first time, I've started being able to slow down and come to a stop leading with my left leg instead of my right leg. I can't hockey stop left leg forward. That's something I want to get to next year. I want to be able to hockey stop on both sides and really comfortably, But I wouldn't have made that next step up had I not focused on just fine-tuning some equipment. Getting new skates, really good example of that. The old ones didn't fit, and I could have just stuck with them for the sake of saving myself some money, but I wouldn't have then actually skated nearly as much as I have this year. And identifying things I want to change for next year, or for 2026, this year. Okay, well, my shorts are a bit big, a bit baggy, and a bit worn. Okay, well, maybe that's something I look to upgrade next year, but really, shoulder pads are fine. They're a bit big, they're a bit clumsy, but they're fine. They fit well. I picked up elbow pads mid-year because my other ones were slipping, and it was really good. It was a comfort change thing, and then all of a sudden I don't have to worry about my elbow pads moving. I changed the size of my gloves. I went down from a 15 to a 14 because the 15 was fine until it broke in, and then it became loose, and I was holding onto the glove, like in my hand, as well as holding onto the stick, and that's really uncomfortable. It caused blisters. So I've learned a lot about, I guess, what makes up me as the hockey player, so to speak, and I've been able to identify some of those gaps on an equipment level. And I'm almost there. I think it's really like fine-tuning from this point on. I'd like to try a visor at some point, because I'm cage at the moment, and I might do a half visor, half cage, but we will see. All in all, though, 2025 was a really good year for hockey for me. And aside from actually playing it, I had 2 trips to Winnipeg to watch hockey and to meet some awesome people that I found through hockey and a podcast over there. So I've had some amazing hockey experiences this year that include going to see Nottingham, finding my local team, and going and watching Bristol every other week and evaluating how players play. Meeting a guy who's from Manitoba, who I'm pretty sure I saw his family on like a Sportsnet broadcast screenshot from a friend of mine. So it's like a really small world, and getting to be a part of that world has been really cool. And like I say, met some really awesome people, learnt some amazing things in terms of hockey culture, as well as hockey, the game, playing in technique and skills and stuff like that. So that's been really cool. If I was going to look ahead to next year and set myself a few targets, because I like to do this, like I said, this year it was learn how to ice skate, get into a scrimmage, tick tick, very happy. Got both of those done. So going ahead, I've set myself, I guess, 3 skating goals, things I want to be able to do comfortably. And when I say comfortably, I mean almost like I don't have to think about it in quite the same way that I'm thinking about it at the moment. 1, crossovers. So forward, not backwards. Maybe that's something I can pick up, but really it's getting crossovers to a point where I can execute them in a game comfortably. Like, that's the technique I choose to use because I know that I'm going to be able to do it, and it's going to be more effective than just scooting around, on my edges and actually striding while I turn. I think that's going to be a really important thing for confidence, for actually being able to influence a game, stuff like that. I want to be able to execute crossovers like really comfortably. Same for skating backwards. I still defer to skating forwards at speed, so I'd like to be able to transition from forwards to backwards at speed, and I'd like to be able to skate backwards comfortably after making that transition. I think really that's a commitment thing. I think technically I can do it. I mean, I've skated backwards, I say relatively quickly compared to how much I often do it. I think it's a comfort thing. I think it's me working on it regularly and again, a practice. Maybe a bit of technique in there too, but I think it's really just to get to the point where I feel like I can commit to doing it more often than not, and I won't fall over and, make an ass of myself or hurt myself. And lastly, I think I mentioned it just now, stopping on both sides. So I can hockey stop right foot forwards. However, I can't do it very effectively in a game. I still defer to just slowing rather than full-on stopping. I'm pretty unreliable at stopping at boards, so I slow down more than I have to, so I get beaten to pucks now and again that I probably should have gotten to first because I didn't feel comfortable hockey stopping before a board, even on my strong side. I've sort of lost out. So next year, hockey stop both ways, get really comfortable with that, and really push that skill so that I can do it, again, almost without thinking. I just want the basics down without thinking. I don't really want to have to be like, oh, hang on a minute, slow a bit, and then do my hockey stop. Because I've got this little, I won't say it's like a trigger, but like, you know how like in golf, they talk about having a trigger where you adjust your grip or you give it a waggle or whatever before you execute the swing. I have a trigger at the moment where I basically take my lead foot, slow a little bit, and then do a hockey stop. It's almost like I get a feel for the ice and then do the thing rather than just trust that it's going to happen. So I need to just work my way out of that habit and into the subconscious just stop. So that's something I'm sort of targeting for next year in terms of skating. My other aim, so those are like 3 goals around skating and improving my skating. I guess it all comes under become a better skater, but in order for those to be meaningful, I need to have things I can tick off, and those 3 things are the things I want to tick off. I want to play in an organised game against another team. This one is aspirational, I think, to a degree, because really the level of play that I'm at and versus where the team I'm registered with, I'm not good enough to make the lineup. Like, realistically, I'm not good enough to be a reserve. So it's going to be a long shot. We're in a league that has some particularly good teams and some okay ones too. So, at the end of the day, it's unlikely I'm going to get to necessarily make a full-blooded appearance. I might come on as a reserve for a shift or two, like get my 40 seconds or whatever. But I doubt I'll break into it. But I want to have that goal because I think having something aspirational to work towards that's hard is actually quite important for development as well. Realistically, I've got 6 months to get this done in as well. So the season formally stops in, I think it's like July, August time. So maybe a bit more than 6 months. But I need to be a different player in 6 months' time to be able to convince, the team that I am capable of hanging with them. And that's got to be, something I work towards. And lastly, it's get back on track with my fitness stuff. I really struggle to form routines. It's just the way my mind works. Like sticking to forming routines, challenging, and yeah. So getting into a fitness routine or getting into a healthy eating routine can be quite hard work. And I can think I've got it cracked, and then if I haven't made it past 6-7 weeks, it's just all bets are off. I really need to find a way to get back into that this year, and it could just be in small bursts of like 3 months of hard work. And then it's okay if you go lax for a few weeks as long as you then get back on it, sort of stuff. But I have been struggling to build those routines in. Fitness-wise, not so bad, I guess, like the running and looking after myself and stuff like that. But eating habits are terrible, just terrible. So I'm hoping that I can turn that around next year and get back on track because I lost a good chunk of weight before getting into the hockey stuff in preparation. Talk a lot about trying to find those extra 5-10%. Well, there's 5% for you. 5% body fat I could lose. So stuff like that I think will be really beneficial. And then I've got a couple of things to look forward to this year outside of playing. I've got a couple of trips. So I'm heading up to the IIHF Continental Cup in a week's time now, week and a bit, to go and watch Nottingham Panthers play a few games against some European teams for the Continental Cup. And I think that'd be really cool. Different teams, different sort of hockey cultures. And they're like all-day stuff, so I've got some time off work. And I'm going to hopefully enjoy that. And then in the summer, I am heading off to Zurich for the World Championships, which I'm really excited for. So I'm going to get to watch the USA absolutely pulverize Great Britain, but that's okay. I think it's going to be really cool. I hope the US brings some properly good skaters, but I wanted to see Great Britain play and to be able to watch them against some of the best players in the world. Because some of the quality of the World Championship players from last year was off the charts. And you've got to think that depending on the outcome of the Olympics might shape who goes and in what context they're going. But yeah, I just thought, what a cool opportunity. It's in Europe, like a flight's a couple hours away. So yeah, why not take the plunge and go and enjoy another trip? Because like the last hockey trip I went on was pretty cool. Got to see some amazing hockey. I'm sure I'll get to do the same this time around as well. So I think those are really. I mean, there's probably going to be some opportunities to go and watch a few more games. Obviously, get involved a bit more, which would be really cool. But that's it. That's the look ahead, I guess. So nice to be able to just chat and reflect holistically on a year, set out some goals and objectives for 2026. I think in that way and work quite a lot. So I think to be able to bring that into hockey for me is going to be quite important. I mean, for that podcast, there's nothing concrete in terms of goals. I just like having this log. I like being able to speak my thoughts, and I'll have this as like a journey, right? Like a journal for my journey into hockey, and I think that would be really cool too. So that's it, really. That's it for this session, for this part of the podcast, talking about last year and now this year, I suppose, the upcoming year. Going to jump into talking a little bit about the hockey I've done this week, because I have been pretty busy. I had 4 sessions on the ice in the last week. I've had a couple of like training sessions and a couple of stick and pucks, which has been cool. So I'll run through that now. The first session was practice with the registered team. Really tough session, actually. Probably one of the first ones in a long while where I've struggled with confidence, struggled with just getting out and about. I think part of it was psychological. Once my blades start to dull, I start to lose a lot of confidence. And I think that's just, again, I'm a beginner. I'm in that process of learning how to actually be on the ice still, essentially. And so when I'm not as connected with the surface that I'm skating on, or I don't feel as connected, I'm going to lose some confidence. And I just really felt like it took a bit of a hit. Didn't really feel like I had my feet under me. Like I was still able to get involved and have a good time, but there were just occasions where I was just struggling, I guess. Struggling with getting in the right kind of place or doing the right kind of thing. I made some nice passes and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't all dreadful, don't get me wrong. But it was a really good reminder that progression isn't linear. And actually, there's going to be times where I'm going to struggle. There's going to be days where not every day are you going to be better than the day you were before, even if you're working hard at getting better at something. Really good reminder for that. And actually, to know that I still enjoyed a tough session. Okay, I beat myself up a little bit about it in the moment, and then I came away from it and thought, what a great lesson learned. More time on the ice. And I've said this to people in the locker room, actually, because other people have expressed that kind of frustration. And I'll come at it with this, childlike enthusiasm, honestly, because I just love getting out there. And even if I'm skating like shit, it's time on the ice. And so I'll have a smile on my face. But I've been sat next to people who've had a tough session or something, and they've been really frustrated. And I can't remember who said the quote, but it was along the lines of, the difference between good and great is putting in the effort when you know you're not at your best. So when things aren't going well, if you're sick, if you're having a tough day at the office, if you're lacking confidence, the difference between you being good and you being great is that on the days where you are those things, where you are struggling, you're putting in 100% effort still. And I feel like that's what I do. I put in a lot of effort, even if the results aren't there. And so I can be really proud of that. Then, excuse me, had an opportunity the next day. So these were back-to-back sessions, 3 in 2 days. I did a stick and puck, which was great. I got my blade sharpened before I stepped on the ice. Really important. And it was like, a switch just flipped. I was more confident. I felt really comfortable. It was a great opportunity to work on some shooting. I actually did a really nice wrister, top left corner, from like the hash marks against a goalie. And it got a couple of fist bumps, which was cool. But I was really pleased with that. Plenty of them weren't that good. And also an opportunity just to work on some stick handling and get comfortable with the stick on the puck and stuff like that. I find the more time I'm spending doing it, the more comfortable I am with the puck on my blade. And that's actually, I'll get to it in a second, but I feel like it's giving me more time to think while I'm skating, which is great. So that was pretty cool. We also had one of the Bristol Pitbulls players on the ice at the time, which was pretty neat. So shared the ice with a pro for a bit. They were doing some drills with a couple of the guys and with the goalie, which is pretty cool. So I got to watch how they do what they do, and clearly they were goofing around and having a pretty relaxed time. But then the moment they go to activate, if you like, on a drill, you can see they're pretty focused and they have intent in what they're doing, which I think is obviously a really important thing to carry through with what, whatever it is you do, like go, act with intent and stuff like that. So yeah, it was pretty cool though. Pretty cool. Good session. Nice to work on some stick handling and get this blade sharpened. Basically, I had that session. I then drove to Cardiff and skated with the team I'm registered with. So we had another hour session, and that was brilliant. So again, massive flip from the following day where I wasn't feeling it, wasn't confident, didn't have my legs under me. All of a sudden, there I am, like I'm back and getting involved again. Loads of puck touches, loads of getting involved, which was really cool because I look back again, getting a bit reflective, but I go back to those first few sessions in November, and it was a lot of skating around and not a lot of touching the puck or getting involved. This time round, a lot more involved. Like probably the most involved I've been in a scrim, even if I didn't score. Had a couple of shots on goal, and a few other shot attempts. Teed up a couple of shots as well. So teed up opportunities, made opportunities, took opportunities, or tried to. And just felt really much better under my feet. Much better skating, which was really good. Big effort as well. Felt very tired after that. We did the 5-on-0, 3-on-2 drill, which is always a treat like that. It's a sensible drill. I think it works well. It gets you skating, gets you moving, thinking about how you're going to enter the zone, trying to find space and stuff like that. So I tend to, being the slower skater, be the trailing forward, which suits me fine. I think I found something I'm able to do, like I say, talk about ways of influencing the game. I'm able to do that even if my skating's not good. So that's what I'll do. Really enjoyed that. And then lastly, yesterday evening, I had another stick and puck session. So this is a good few days later. The new year has passed, or at this point. And last night, got out for a second stick and puck. And much like the first one, a really good opportunity to work on shooting. I must have been doing shooting drills for half an hour. And something really clicked in my hand positioning. So I've been able to develop that kind of like wrist sort of snapping motion, if you like, that kind of whipping it. But I also learned a little bit about hand position last night, and I've been having my hand a little bit too high up on the stick, which is less, I guess it's like a little bit less consistent for me. But if I have it a little bit lower on the stick, so I effectively shorten my stick, I'm able to get a lot more out of my shot. And it's not like I'm not holding it all the way down at the curve, but just bringing it down, below halfway below halfway sort of thing. It's just giving me a more consistent release, and I'm able to hit the target a lot more. I'm able to actually focus on where it's going to be. I'm elevating the puck. I'm not just either grounding it or sending it 6 feet over the goal. So that was really good, actually, to be able to kind of tweak and play and figure that out for myself a little bit. And also, again, just more time with the puck. You get seconds, and so I talked about this in a previous episode. You only get seconds on it every game. What you do off the puck is really important, but when you have possession, you have to make the most of that because you don't have it very often. So I guess it's a double-edged sword, really. So the fact that those stick and puck sessions exist now and again, really good for just getting puck touches, working on shooting, stuff like that. Trying to capitalize on opportunities when they come around. And that's it. That's been my week in skating. Got a couple more coming up this week, obviously. Really trying to aim for 2 sessions a week for this year. The way I see it is that if I manage to do that as a minimum, and I'm going to get between 8 to 10 hours of skating in every month, which, like I say, as a minimum, then I'm going to keep progressing at a good rate, hopefully. Because I feel like if I'm not getting out twice a week, that first session back is hard work. So just keeping it consistent commitment, really important for me. So yeah, that's kind of it, really. I guess that's where we're at for this episode. So thanks ever so much for listening. Last year was really fun starting this off. Obviously, I'm going to time my seasons with the seasons of hockey. So this season will run until hopefully until October, I guess. September, October time. But a new year nonetheless, and an opportunity to get stuck into some fun and exciting challenges. So happy new year to all those listening. I hope 2026 brings you what you would like it to. And until next time, bye for now.